Hello, and welcome to another episode of Around the Verse, our weekly look at Star Citizen's ongoing development. I'm Sandi Gardiner.
And I'm Tracy.
Today's feature will take you behind the scenes of CitizenCon 2947 to reveal all the work that went into making the show.
But first, on today's Burndown, not only will we be looking at the issues the team has been tackling this week, but we'll all be sharing our Alpha 3.0 closeout schedule.
Let's go to Eric for all the details.
Burndown.
Welcome back to Burndown, our weekly show dedicated to reviewing progress on the release of Star Citizen Alpha 3.0. Last week, we were at 17 remaining must-fix issues to close down our next game loop of shopping, cargo, and commodity trading. Because we've been making solid progress on that game loop, we now want to share the other aspects we're focusing on for PTU. They are missions, ships and vehicles, traversal, mobiGlas, and performance and stability. While we've been closing down shopping, the number of remaining issues have been going down in these categories as well. So let's jump over to the team around the globe to see how we're progressing.
So this week we focused on shopping as well as other bugs that we had. We've worked on commodities and basically the kiosks associated with that, the cargo, and also the physical shops.
We had quite a few fixes in. Commodities, for example, you're able to now buy stuff from the shops and able to equip your items through your personal manager. We also had all of George's network updates and changes went in as well. In terms of the Evocati shopping push, there's only a handful of issues by the looks of things right now before we can call that feature sort of Evocati ready, as it were. We're having shopping syncs daily on this with the team at about 4 o'clock, which involves Todd as well, to go over any issues that they come up with and any problems they just need to talk through, which seems to be pushing things along quite nicely.
So today I'm working on a try-on bug where when you try on clothes like t-shirts and shoes and stuff like that, if you're wearing your flight suit, you do try on the clothing, but they're being hidden by your flight suit, so it's not really useful at all. You've caught me in a pretty good time where I've got this unintentional side effect. When I try things on, my character is naked except for their helmet. And that's because I'm trying to hide the flight suit so that you could see the clothes you're trying on underneath. I realize now that rather than just making the flight suit invisible, we're going to need to detach it and then make it invisible. That way the clothing underneath does not get occluded by it. So the problem you're seeing here is the flight suit is invisible, but the code is saying, well, it's still there, so it's still covering up the other clothing. So it's invisible, the other clothing is covered up, but it really just makes it look like you're naked.
I've also been chasing down a lot of bugs with missing assets for the icons and images used in the shopping kiosk. Things like the icons that represent each item in the store. Some of them were missing, so I've had to go and hunt those down and hook them up. And some of the other things that were missing were a few of the images of the cargo boxes that were used. So I've had to basically track those down and just make sure that everything's using the right asset.
Cargo's in a really good state at the moment. At the start of the week, the LA guys who are working on the cargo system, they'd reached a point where they couldn't go any further, and now the directors are back from CitizenCon. They've been able to give them a heading to take for the last few tasks. So yeah, it's looking really good now. There's just a few last problems we've been having with how much cargo to put on the cargo grid in the back of the ship and things like that. Now we're all pointing in the same direction. It shouldn't take too long to get fixed up.
This week there's kind of been a little bit of a hang-up with, they have these counters here that have items in them that you can purchase, like ammo and grenades and things like that. And the way the shopping system works is that a ray is cast from the player camera to the item, and that's what makes it highlight, and that's what gives you the shopping AR display. And, well, they're behind glass, and right now the glass collides with the ray that shoots out, and so you can't actually interact with anything behind it. But if we take out that glass collision, then you could just walk right into the glass part of the counter and people could stand in it, and that would just be obnoxious. So we've had to kind of last minute come up with, we've got art and engineers all kind of like scrambling to make sure that we have a separate colliding surface for glass that will properly block players from walking into it, but will allow raycasts to come through so we can still see things, purchase things, and do that whole spiel. Now I'm dropping in the finalized shopkeepers and their loadouts, making sure they're all working as they are expected to, and getting everything exported for what should be the last time for 3.0.
We want to make sure that when we say to the Evocati group, okay, shopping is now ready for you guys to, run with it. We don't want to have the instability that we've got at the moment, so people are only getting sort of like 15, 20 minutes worth of game time. We want to see that come up.
Work we've done this week has included getting about 59 of our 60-ish missions actually playable. Let's say content complete, if not polished. Although we have now got dialogue into at least one of them. We have a little issue that currently that only works in single player, so that's one thing we're going to have to fix, but it's all there, and once the code is fixed, it's ready to go. And another massive thing we've done this week is get all of the missions that are given by mission givers. We've got those all behind a gate, as it were.
So after we designed the MFDs to work in the ships so that you can have control over the various items in the ships, including all the power-related items, the shield-related items, the heat, and the weapon-related items, that went to the UI team, which now includes Calyx, and he's implementing those screens to be useful as far as putting them on MFDs in the ships.
The bug that I'm working on right now is for the heat screen, and it basically is that the buttons that we have on the heat screen, which are to suppress your IR, which does so at the cost of actually increasing your item heat per system, as well as a button to allow you to do that globally. That is, well, for one, it's not telling you what it's doing, which is problematic. And for another problem is that when it does activate, there's actually a delay before you're allowed to interact with it again, to toggle it on and off. And this prevents edge case behaviors from cropping up of what happens when you're flip between suppressed IR state and not too quickly. So we just don't allow you to do that. However, at the moment, there's nothing letting you know that you can't do that. So one of the things that I am doing is making it so that when you select it, it'll turn on and let you know that these are the ones that are being altered and why they can't turn on or off, and then making it so that when you turn it off, it tells you that too. Super simple.
I suppose the question, Chris, is what do we want to tackle for 3.0 with the Afterburner now? What are the specific tasks that we want to...
I do like the suggestion of the thrust management that I guess you were putting out, that we were discussing with Calyx,
basically,
where you can go and tune your thrusters, so you can have more finer control, and and you could maybe even have a preset on your thrust stuff.
We knew we had the issue with the quantum travel overshooting you from your location, from your intended destination. That seems to be something that Mike Dillon needs to take a look at over the next day or so.
We had an issue come up with Quantum Drive where it was dropping us out effectively 7.5 million kilometers before Hurston. Prior to that, we hadn't really had a jump that many millions of kilometers to worry about. It was usually just jumping from moon to moon. That's all that we're really worried about, so the math issue wasn't a huge deal. But once we got larger, jumps were coming much further out, and the last frame of Quantum puts you where you should be. So you had this jump from nothing to Hurston right there. Solution came out to be we were simply doing our math off the wrong acceleration values. So we have an initial acceleration of some slow speed, like accelerating your car up to, we had to refer to it going to 88 miles per hour in the DeLorean, at which point you hit the max speed or your max acceleration as we accelerate up. we were using the wrong value there, so when we were calculating how far you should be going, it was much shorter than you actually would go, which put us in the wrong spot once we slowed the ship down to that final point. Swap those values around, and we finally would start showing up as we saw in Germany at CitizenCon, the ship coming right up to the planet like it should.
The build has an issue on Aurora's. Opening moving glass in the ship's bed will cause the UI to clip through the ceiling. I don't know why they say UI. To clip through the ceiling, becoming unusable and trap the player.
Started off okay.
Yeah, right. It gets worse. Then the next one is the Mobiglass PMA is missing all assets and functionality. So
Feature.
Decided
to cut it. Yeah.
As for the QATR we had yesterday when I was sick on the dynamic nav point system, caused no issues related to your code. So if you're happy with what was done there, I can go ahead and close it out.
Yeah.
Okay. Over the last few Evocati builds, we've been paying attention to the feedback from the guys in the Evocati. We've also had people in Austin and over here as well monitor the server performance and try and get as much information as we can client side as well from what people tell us. And we have noticed that performance, as we've introduced new features, as I've said previously, you introduce features, but you also then potentially start to see some instability come in. And that's exactly what we've been seeing over the last few Evocati pushes, that the performance is not up to what it was when we first pushed Evocati through some various crashes that have crept in, and there's been some server instability as well, some server crashes. So what we've done is we're prioritising those up a little bit higher up the list.
So we need to get back with Austin and say, look, I understand it's a weekend and so forth, but it'd be nice if someone had gone in over the weekend. So when we came in first thing on Monday, that basically we could have had that information, so we can then be passing out to people looking at that, because we need to know on the server side why the performance is going up and down. If we now have to wait for a QA to do it at this time zone, then we're not going to be looking at this stuff until later today. Or we need to at least get if Clive, George, whoever can get access to that information, they can at least doing that. It's a bit of a problem we've got. That needs to be the number one thing on for that team, is just basically going and breaking down and just working out these issues out and getting ourselves to build. We're now getting down to fewer features stuff, which is typically what breaks the build. But we need to get the performance, and we need to get the stability back, so we have that, and then that means that we can then just keep on working towards it through the end of the year, making choices when we deliver and so forth. It's great that you're doing the dailies tags. I think that really helps, trying to get the feature stuff done, but we just need to get this build working so it's fast and so forth and things like that. So that's number one on for me on that side.
At the time of filming this, we're at 15 issues, and we've checked in over 529 updates onto our 3.0 branch across the categories of shopping, ships and vehicles, traversal, Mobiglass, and performance and stability. Tomorrow, on our production schedule, we'll be showing the remaining issues needed to finish to release to PTU. Don't miss that update. And come back next week to see the progress we're making here on Burndown.
You'll be able to check out the production schedule report tomorrow on our website.
Now let's head back to Frankfurt. Last week, the Star Citizen team took to the stage at the Capitol Theater for a full day of panels, a keynote address from Chris Roberts featuring our procedural city tech from Sean, and much more.
Pulling all these pieces together, whilst also working on Alpha 3.0 and Squadron 42, took a lot of planning and coordination.
Let's see how it all came together in this exclusive behind-the-scenes look at CitizenCon 2947.
Guten Tag, alle. Welcome to CitizenCon 2947 in Frankfurt, Germany. So without further ado, we hope you enjoy the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Roberts.
Hey, hello Frankfurt. So we're really excited to have you all here in Frankfurt, Germany at CitizenCon 2947. So let's see what the box delivered. So here we are. So the Optane 900p, which is the fastest SSD on the planet, and we've actually been working with Intel for quite a bit of time on this one. And it's some really, really cool tech. Here, I'm going to throw one to the audience here. Who's going to catch? All right, here we go. There we go. Sorry, it's a little wet from the dry ice. David Burndown from Intel, come out. So David's going to talk a little bit about the Optane, and before we kick off everything today.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for having us here today. We really appreciate this opportunity. And today at CitizenCon, we're actually launching the product that Chris just tossed out into the audience.
Yes, so it's a big deal for Star Citizen, the fact that we're actually part of a launch of a major piece of hardware. That's very, very cool.
It's a major launch for Intel of the Intel Optane 900p SSD. And really, it's the first SSD for desktop and workstation users that uses Intel Optane technology. We got together over a couple years ago, and we started talking about the attributes of this technology, and we thought this was a perfect connection. So what do you think you can get out of this in the upcoming release?
You know, it's the first generation of the technology, and it's going to improve, and you know, the operating system is going to sort of embrace it better, and it'll be pretty cool. But it's definitely helping our development now, and I think it will be good for anyone playing Star Citizen too.
Yeah, and we definitely look forward to working with you on the future. And then as part of this collaboration, some of you may have noticed something new out in the atrium. Did anybody see anything new, a little small thing? No, seriously, what we thought is, hey, you know, there's a technical collaboration, will make the gameplay better, make you guys have more fun with this thing, try new experiences, but also we thought we might translate that into a ship.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to CitizenCon 2947. Exploring new worlds.
We do have the big Sabre Raven model right here. It was done by JR Fabrication. It's not a life-size one, as I told you before, but it looks super amazing and it packs a punch, let me tell you that.
My name's Jason Cole. I'm the lead cinematic animator for Squadron 42, and today I'm going to talk to you guys about Look IK, or Pcap look transformation. All right, so the left is Look IK, the original system, always on. And then the right is Look IK with a little bit of polish and the animation toolkit, or the Look IK toolkit. And I'll let this run a few times, but you can really see the differences pulling through now. So you can see he's looking right and left, and he's constantly looking back towards CTOW. And we're getting a lot of smaller things in here, like head nods and little head turns.
So this video was showing only
a few issues we have with stairs and random obstacles, but this list can be really endless. One way to solve this is to tell animators to make more animation assets, but I think that won't always help, because this is one of those problems you can't fix with animation data alone. There are way too many unpredictable situations, and we just can't consider all of them. The only thing we can do is try to find a procedural solution.
But in Star Citizen, it's really not that simple. I mean, as Ivo is showing here, I've never seen this planet before. And you have situations where it's possible, and what you'll see throughout the day today, where you could be on a mountain, on a planet that potentially nobody else has been on before. Or I've never been to, no QA guy has seen it, up at some corner of this world, and you get into a gunfight for your life. And in those situations, the animation system needs to hold up.
That panel, you know, when we put up the summaries, like animate, what was the discovery? Enhancing mocap data with procedural information. Not exactly the sexiest of all titles, you know, but I think it was a misnomer. You know, it slid it under the radar. That was an amazing presentation.
This is your 5th CitizenCon, is it?
Yeah, it is. Austin, Los Angeles, Manchester, Los Angeles, and now Frankfurt.
Temporal techniques basically work by looking at the previous several frames of motion. In our case, we look at 4 frames prior, and we work out from them previous 4 frames what the results should have been there. So we wobble the image ever so slightly, which is imperceivable to you, and then over the 4 frames, we work out what the details should have been in that 1 pixel, and we can recover that and get a nice soft result. But the problem with using the previous 4 frames, well, there's all sorts of problems, to be honest. It's caused us a lot of headaches. So we have a lot of moving objects. Obviously, we've got spaceships that move. We've got planets that are moving. We've got all sorts of things going on that we might not have in a normal game. And we also have a UI, transparent UI, a transparent glass screen, a transparent visor. All of these things make it quite difficult to account for the previous 4 frames motion, because your visor might be spinning this way, the cockpit might be going that way. You know, there's all sorts going on. So we've recently done a change that hopefully will work around them. But yeah, you'll be able to see this in 3.0 once you get your hands on it. Okay, so that's our final frame. Looking nice, I think you'll agree.
How many members are on your team?
So we have me and 5 others in the UK, and then we work really closely with our Frankfurt team. So there's 2 or 3 guys there that do a lot of graphics, but it's very tightly coupled, like the CPU optimizations and the planetary work.
Why don't you tell me about your experience at CitizenCon? What do you think of it so far?
This is a really great event. I have seen many people, I have seen many new technologies come in, and many new technologies integrated in the project. It's really appreciated by the whole community. I think it's all appreciated by all people who came tonight.
Basically, the moment of being tasked with creating a civilization, there was one question that sort of popped into my head immediately, which was that, and abject fear and terror. But once it ended, basically, it was a very simple question of who are they? I mean, that sort of thing seems like a very obvious and silly approach, but it actually can give you a lot of good answers.
This is our lineup of our big 4 plus 1. And so we have, this is kind of the current of where everybody is. So we have our Vandal the Warrior, we have our Ronin and the Tavaran, we have our traders in the Banu, we have our humans there, and then we have our Jean, who we're kind of talking about today. It's important as we progress that we don't necessarily make like a drastic change, right? We want to keep true with what everything's going. If we need to retcon something, we can do that, but it's not something we want to do at every opportunity. We want to keep it consistent. And I think that's, going back to the Marvel way that you were talking about, how typically you work in the broad shape first, and then you go into the details. And that's something you do for a whole race as well, We're not going to try to nail it on the first shot. We're not going to go and maybe try to make the perfect image the first time. We're going to do a lot of images and see what sticks, and we're going to go back to those, see what we're successful, and kind of move on.
What possesses somebody to go into that kind of field, to sit there and say, I want to create a language? That's my contribution. It's an amazing contribution. Don't get me wrong. I have no relation. I can't relate.
Well, it's not really a field yet, I would say. You know, there are a handful of people, getting to be two handfuls of people who've done professional language creation for entertainment franchises.
We set up 24 gaming PCs, and people can enjoy the Planetary Playground demo. Planetary Playground demo, you might have heard about that. We already had it at Gamescom, but this is a new one. We got rid of some bugs, and we put in new stuff. One of those is actually the Sabre Raven. So people here at the CitizenCon can already enjoy the Sabre Raven, fly it around.
So you might have heard a bit of this before, but hopefully there'll be some new stuff in there. So we always start with lore. So what this means is it's always like the best starting point for visual design. It ensures that our ideas sit within like a system tapestry, kind of what we said before, because if we're working in a corner, I'm like, yeah, we're gonna have some blues and reds and whatever, then we'll get to like the rest of the system and we'll just have like Skittles, you know, taste the rainbow. So
you want to sort of balance stuff out.
Sure, you want to balance it out.
The fact that we were able to make terrain that's completely spherical and just holds up and works, that's been a challenge in itself. So even when we got to that previous slide where it's like, this is terrain and it's like on a sphere and it's connected, and that was something new completely. It brought its own set of challenges, obviously.
Just the idea that you can walk on forever and you'll end up at the same place at some point. A couple of days.
It's a very long walk.
I don't know, I never tried. And then there's a bit of improvement, some more detail. We had to add another layer of detail on top. And yeah, this is what you see here. Then in the front you still see it's a little bit of blurriness, like how the textures go into each other. You have like snow going soft into rock. That was the next thing that we had to work on. So you see some early shots of how the terrain was blending. So here you see this colory map, the splat map, doing its work, saying here we have some soil, rock, snow, whatever. And then we just iterated on how we blend the textures together to get more variety and more variety until you have something more nice looking. And in the end, you end up with something like this, and you can have two completely different ecosystems right next to each other.
What if I offered you the ability to build your own settlement? To bring civilization to the most untamed of frontiers? A colony ship in the truest sense of the word. And I'm not talking about just transporting people, no. I'm talking about an all-in-one solution designed to build modular structures based on your needs. Capable of building a farm or a habitat, a trading post or a mining operation. I mean, that'd be crazy, right? Allow me to introduce the Pioneer.
So we're here to talk about the Pioneer and other things that are associated with it.
So right off the bat, you know that you're dealing with function over form. It's not going to be like super sexy, it's not going to be pretty, but it's still going to have a really good sort of well thought out industrial design feel to it. So, you know, even as you're walking through this thing, you're still going to appreciate it, and you've got your own essentially flying factory.
Knowledge, information within Star Citizen is very often an analog concept. You don't necessarily know something or not know something, but rather you know things to varying degrees. And the easiest way that I could give for an example would be to consider a car that you're thinking about purchasing. If if you're being asked to purchase a car and you haven't actually seen it, you're going to be very conservative in terms of your estimate of what it might be worth. If you're able to see it even from the exterior and verify there's tread on the wheels, the paint job looks okay, etc., then that's going to increase your perception of its value. If you're able to actually, turn the car on, make sure it's running, or better yet, have a mechanic, take a peek under the hood, then that's going to basically bring it, even farther up the scale. And so a lot of what we're doing, with the value of land, which ties over into the Pioneer, because you're going to be setting up these outposts ideally in optimal locations to exploit a lot of this value that's sitting on the surface of these planets.
Tony talks about knowledge, what it all means, but to get that knowledge, you've got to go and find that area to figure out what's there. Is it right for you? And that's where all the exploration ships come in. You could take your Pioneer and do all this with your Pioneer, but it's probably not going to be the best ship for scouting locations. We've got a whole wealth of exploration ships that are designed for finding that information out.
Know what you're building, so that you don't do 5 trips to Hornbach to build something. So if you know what you're building and then you know the resources that you're going to need for that, you'll save yourself multiple trips, or it will be one of those things where you'll need to have these resources brought to you.
With the greater speed comes greater risk, and you've only got half the weapon, so if you mess that up, you're in trouble.
We see your mouth moving while you're answering my question. That's pretty amazing itself.
And I really like this, that you can unlock your face and move your head around.
Damen und Herren, meine bessere Hälfte, Chris Roberts.
That's some pretty loud music there, so thank you very much for the nice entrance. We are now going to give you a bit of a preview of what we've been working on beyond 3.0 for Star Citizen. So this is the fun bit.
As you saw, it took an incredible amount of effort to bring it together, and we'd like to thank everybody who volunteered or worked at the event.
That's all for today's episode, and a big thanks to all our subscribers for your support on our shows. November subscriberships on the month are the MISC Starfarer and Origin M50. Log into the game to test fly them today.
And thanks to all of our backers as well, because your dedication to Star Citizen is what allows us to make a game that pushes boundaries. We could not do this without you.
And until next week,
we will see you around the verse.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.